Okay, welcome to Nezha, a brief overview of his abilities for some newer players. Slide faster, go farther is his passive. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that momentum will carry over into your jumps and other parkour maneuvers as well, which is important to remember. Then we have Nezha's first ability, which is Firewalker, primarily used to go really fast, as it enhances both his sprint speed and his sliding speed. It does also cleanse your status if you cross it, but that's not very relevant to Nezha because of his third ability, but may help your allies. And it will leave a damaging trail, which can kill any annoying little people who are trying to chase you as well, while inflicting more and more heat for our purposes. Not too much fancy there for what we're doing for it. There are a few odd gimmicks with it, but not a whole lot we're going to dive into. Now, Nezha's second ability, which I would call his bread and butter, is his Reaping Chakram. You throw out his little frisbee, hula hoop, what have you, chakram, if you want to be particular, of death. And this does a lot of different things. It lights enemies on fire, does fairly impressive amount of damage. It marks them with a thing that makes them drop orbs as well as take additional damage. You can also warp to it as well by hitting the button again. It's this huge multi-utility ability that is really the key component of most people play Nezha. Ability number 3 is Warding Halo. This one, you cast it, you turn invulnerable for a little bit, then you'll see in the bottom right you get this giant damage buffer. Now this isn't like Iron Skin. It only gives it absorbs 90% of incoming damage while the other 10% goes through. It can still be incredibly strong when used properly, and it used to have some perks with letting you trigger on-hit effects, but they've undid that with recent patches, technically nerfing Nezha. So, but no, still nonetheless a very good defensibility. It does also do some minor damage to enemies near you, but that's not a big deal. And it gives you complete status immunity as well, so no need for your Prime Surefoot or worrying about toxin procs and things like that. And then we've got Nezha's Divine Spears. For our purposes, it's going to be used mostly for crowd control, but it does also create a second copy of the chakram when you hit an enemy who's up on the spheres, so it will very much help us with clearing out groups a lot as well. There is a very good augment for this that can be used with certain damage dealing nuking type builds, but that's not where we're going to go for today. Do keep that in the back of your mind though. I will briefly show you a build I have for it, but it's not our main focus today. Alright, so let's hop on into the build, of course. Now, you can see my Archon shards over here. Pretty much this is all cozy stuff, some casting speed. Got some extra duration for our abilities. Arguably, you'd even want to move those over to power. And then this just gets a little extra energy. Pretty much I slapped just some random stuff on. I wasn't even actively trying to synergize anything there. Let's hop on the Nezha himself, though. Or Nezha. I've never quite gotten the power. So, see that inside, we don't have too much health or shield, but again, most of our power comes from the Halo. It's what's going to be doing most of our blocking for us. You can see, though, we have a very heavy focus on power. We got Umbral Intensify, we got your Blind Rage, we got your Augur Secrets, your Transient Fortitude, and your Multi-Augmented hiding over here. Growing power as well when our weapons deal status effects, which they're pretty. All our weapons you'll see in a second are pretty good at doing. We'll also continuously get a boost. Because we throw at our chakram just constantly, that's the one we're boosting, so we're constantly going to be chakram hit, chakram hit, chakram hit. Thanks for interrupting, Ors. I really should turn them off when I do build videos, eh?
And a terrible memory. You're welcome!
Secret of happiness for you, right here. Double value in this Warframe video. So yeah, the weapon hits in between the chakram hits will empower the chakram, and the chakram will empower the weapons. It's a nice little feedback loop we got going. In Turns Drift, this is energy max and more parkour velocity that plays into Nezha's whole passive with the sliding. We're going to get really going with the parkour, as you probably saw in the intro a little bit. Equilibrium shouldn't really need too much of an explanation if you're at all, but if you are newer to Warframe players here, you are, of course, this one is a very valuable mod you'll get very early on from one of the junctions, which pick up health orbs, you get energy, pick up energy orbs, you get health. It doesn't matter if you're maxed out on one or the other. If you are able to pick it up, you get the other one, you will. Nezha, of course, always making orbs with his Reaping Chakram, or Blazing Chakram ability, and his Reaping Chakram augment. You can see the augments effects down there at the bottom. even more damage as the thing bounces around, and also an increased chance for health orb drops. You'll see them constantly dropping all the time for us, which of course is right here in the build as well. We also have health conversion. This is a little more of an advanced mod you get from Simris for, I think, 75,000 standing. Might be 100 though. When you pick up health orbs, gives you 450 armor, stacking up to 3 times. So that's roughly, give or take, around 85% armor, or 85% damage reduction on his health amount, which doubles up in its effectiveness with the stuff he already has here on his armor, which is already at like 46. So it ends up being closer to 90 from armor altogether. And of course his ring, or his halo, as he will also give you 90% DR. So you got that double stack of 90% DR, even without throwing adaptation here. You could, if you wanted, drop one of the strength things and throw an adaptation. That's totally a valid choice. We have Arcane Blessing as well. That's going to give us more health, just so we got a nice heavy buffer behind that. You'll notice we don't have an actual health mod in him. Oh, we do. Yeah, we do. We have Archon Vitality. What the heck am I talking about? Archon Vitality, again, this is health, but more importantly, abilities that deal heat damage will apply their status effect twice, which is literally everything Nezha does, effectively doubling the damage of the status procs from all of his abilities at once, for the cost of 1 mod. Umbral Vitality will give you a little more health. And again, if you're a new player, you're coming at this, you're saying, what is all this gold nonsense? I can't do this. Why am I watching this video? There's a regular version of Intensify you should be able to get. Blind Rage and Transient Fortitude are what's called corrupted mods. They come from vaults on Deimos. You look up corrupted mods or Deimos vaults, you'll very quickly, or Dragon Keys, you'll very quickly find a guide on that. You throw it in the comments, I'll even make you one. I'll probably put it in short, because it's not a long thing, but I try not to duplicate content that's out there 10,000 times already. Archon Vitality is the one you will have trouble finding. That is very far along in the story before you can possibly access it. And there's a kind of a weekly mission that time gates it past that. You may be able to trade for it, but people are pretty pricey when you are trying to buy Archon mods because they're kind of annoying to get. That said, you can run Archon Vitality in there. That's perfectly fine as well. And then we got a couple other builds in here you can see. I'm not going to dwell on these. They're not going to get big complex explanations. This is if you helmet Reeve on. Basically, when you throw your chakram and you Reeve the enemies, they will just instantly die no matter what level they are. It's what I use in Elite. It's what I'll use in Elite Archimedia when Nezha comes up occasionally. And then the one on the end here was trying to use this augment, but I never could find a real balance that I liked for it. This augment is very powerful, but it's also kind of weird to modify for. It's more based on damage over time stuff, which is not my necessarily favorite thing to do. I like basic fire, because fire does damage over time, does crowd control, and reduces armor. I don't really get into necessary. I will kill things much faster than damage over time, generally. That is the build for Nezha, though. Let's pop on out. Our primary weapon is the Guandao Prime. Ordis is very enthused about the Guandao Prime. Thank you, Ordis. Nothing here is super complicated, we'll say. If you don't see this slot here, or you can't use this slot here or this slot, you need to get farther into the game. And those will unlock for you. That said, either of the gold stances are fine for a polearm. Condition Overload is a mod that will deal additional damage based on status types. Doesn't seem like we have a huge amount of status, I know. But with the speed we attack, that basically will start to add up very, very quickly across these 5 status types on this weapon. Plus the fire that we like to throw on everything all the time. Sacrificial Steel, that's our critical chance. You can see it's up over 100, so we have guaranteed crits 4-6 times damage over here. Berserker Fury, if you can't get this, just use normal Fury. There's also one called Quickening you can use. Lots of different options for attack speed on melees, and you can only typically use one. But this is the best one if you are able to continuously get those kills. Gladiator Might is critical damage, and we get a little extra critical chance if we build combo. We've got Blast here, because Blast is a very nice way to get some AoE on your weapons. Enemies will explode when you kill them. Fever Strike is Toxin. So our fire does a lot of work for us dealing with armor. It's very strong against the infested. Its anti-armor effect helps with the Grenier, the Corrupted, and the Murmur. This is our shield. This is our raised finger to the Corpus shields, basically. It's throwing some toxins straight through those right to their health bars. And this is just the last bit of critical damage here. Cyanex I have, but I don't really use it. It will throw out some gas on there if you want some additional power, but I haven't super modded it out, so I'm not really going to touch on it. This is a Boar Prime Incarnate. It is a work in progress, and if you're going to have an Incarnate weapon, you should have all this stuff. Pretty much. Other than maybe not having the Prime version, a couple of them. So, you should be able to replicate this pretty easily. It's a very powerful weapon, but I'm not going to get too far into the weeds talking about Incarnate weapons and Incarnate perks, because that's not really the main part I use of this build. Over here, our companion, the actual companion themselves does not matter. I like Emulator because you can kind of make them look sort of like a dragon, bird, phoenix-y thing. Those particular MOAs. We do have Reinforced Spawn on here, which is this guy's kind of gimmick. He can jump with Blast Shield, that will give him the overshields, and suddenly you are super fire rate, which does also apply to your melee, strangely enough. And we got Hellstrom. You can see there's a special modding over here for fire. So you can see I put Bane of Corpus on here because of the previously mentioned thing that the fire has trouble with shielded units. And we've got the Bane of Orokin just because Corrupted are one of the most common and obnoxiously hard to kill things we fight. Again, if you don't have the Prime versions, you can put the non-Prime versions in. This is basically what's called a Heat Inherit Primer. Technically, you could put all the Bane mods in here. Oh yeah, the Murmur is over here. You could take this one out and this one out. But basically, you want to jam all the Bane mods you care to have, because they have a multiplicative effect on the fire procs. And you want all the fire damage you can get. The multi-shot in this is just to make sure we're spreading those procs out as much as possible amongst the enemies. And essentially what this does, when it hits the enemies, it applies a heat proc. That heat proc turns every other heat proc after it, as long as the stack doesn't burn out, to also have Prime Bane of Orokin and Prime Bane of Corpus. And I don't have Prime Bane of the Murmur. I'm not sure that one's actually exists yet. So, and also get this plus 90% heat, this plus 60% heat on. So that will give you this giant upgrade onto Nezha's powers, dealing damage if this thing hits them first. That's also why we kind of want it on a MOA rather than a regular Sentinel, because a Sentinel on your shoulder is going to get to the enemies at the same time as you, because it's sitting on your shoulder. The MOA will actually kind of wander ahead and off to the sides and prime some dudes for you that you're not currently looking at. So there's a lot of logic in there that's not the easiest to understand, but it is very important to the overall what we're trying to do there. You can also just forfeit it all and go for a Veraclass on a Death Cube or a Dirijet, but I like to be a little bit out of the box. So that's the Nezha build here. We got Unero too, just in case we're really stuck on something with shields or armor. We can just splatter it off. Pretty simple and basic there if you know how Unero works. And that's Nezha. So you saw the little clips of each ability as I was using them. I'm going to throw in a slightly longer Steel Path mission here at the end. Part of one, not an entire one. We'll show off the Acolyte fight and a couple of other things for you. If you don't want to watch that, that's all cool. It's going to have a little more step-by-step in-the-moment guide. But remember to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. You may have noticed we're testing a couple of versions of build videos on the channel right now, so let me know which one you prefer if you've watched both. And we will see you in the next video, or we will see you shortly for some Steel Path gameplay here. All right, so here we are on the steel path, Lua exterminating. Chose this one specifically because you can get Grenier and Corpus together. See here, we got that big damage multiplier right off the bat. Just ice that Grenier through all his armor. I want to keep throwing the chakram because that's going to trigger our melee exposure, which also has the corrosive on it. Corpus aren't going to be much of anything. We'll start getting our little speed game in the way. Got some sentience coming in. When you get a big group like that, you just put them up on your spears and launch. Looks like we might get some sentience to play with early on here. That's the speed drift room, which I'm not going to bother showing right now. Important note here, the chakram will bounce off corners like that. Guys are kind of annoying because they're floating up there, so I'm just going to use my arrow to kind of strip their armor away. Okay, and one of the tricks you can do with the chakram is if you cast it while you're doing this little dash you do. Of course the enemies have wandered away. Get what I like to call the OG raffle advance. You teleport the guys, light them all on fire, and then just go to town on them with your weapon.
Stay focused.
Okay, apparently this counts as a Kuvalich mission. Who knew?
Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching.
Cortac, I'm good on that. Who do you hunt? Which one's Mania?
That was closer.
Yeah, bye-bye Mania, have fun. Thanks for playing. Alright, so hopefully you've enjoyed this Nezha guide. Whether you're a new player, old player looking to try something new, or an in-between, we love you all around here. Remember, if you have enjoyed this, remember to throw down a like, drop down a subscribe, drop a comment with any questions or suggestions. Maybe you got a different build you want to show off or a few extra tips. Again, we're trying out a couple different versions of these build videos, so do let me know which one you prefer if you've looked at both. And we will see you in the next one, which will probably be down in that playlist, down in that description and below you should check out. Until then, thanks for watching, and have a good one.